The agenda review.
Not as far as I am aware.
Okay, first item is the show cause hearing for Gary Coppola, a cease and desist on East Wakefield Boulevard. Can you give me an address associated with that?
364 Norwood.
364 Norwood. And Michael, or Pam, why do we have an East Wakefield Boulevard application?
Well, so Mr. Cobbler's house is 364 Norwood, despite the fact that it's accessed from East Wakefield Boulevard primarily. But this parcel is a separate lot. It may be sold, it may be bound in the deed, but it is its own distinct parcel across the road and is noted in our assessor's records as being on East Wakefield Boulevard.
Okay, thank you. Just identify yourself, please.
Gary Coppola.
Hi, Gary, go ahead.
Come on, you guys call me.
Michael?
If you would, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so Mr. Coppler's dock, as you can see in the pictures for this, it's been pretty much completely replaced. There's only a couple of the piers that support it remaining. Now, where I have been drawing the line in terms of what is routine maintenance of a dock versus what requires a new application is, are you going to be removing the dock substructure? If you're just resurfacing the top of a dock or doing maintenance that resets joists, that's not going to affect the water, it's not going to affect the lake bed, it's routine maintenance. But when I saw that there were posts, the posts were replaced, as you can see with the new wood, I figured it would be correct to issue a cease and desist to say you can't just replace the substructure of your dock without a new permit. Now it is, from my observations, it's the exact same shape, and appears to be the same size as the old dock. But it's all new wood, and other than the two landward posts, those have been replaced. That's why I sent the letter.
Thank you.
20 years ago, we had this problem with wetlands. I put the dock in, the posts are driven into mud. It was approved 20 years ago with the posts. All I did was repair the dock. I haven't done anything else, except maybe you guys can dig the cove out so we don't have to keep repairing our docks. I mean, we got about this much water on our docks, and we have to go further out until it keeps up. He's got an issue with my resurfacing my dock. People pull their docks out every year, they put it on their property, and they replace all the stuff, and they stick it back in the lake. You need a permit for that? Do you need a permit for that?
Direct the questions to here, please.
Do you need a permit for that?
Let's talk about your situation and leave everybody else out. I'm looking at the picture, and I visited your site. It appears that the structures that are going into the lake bed are new.
Yes, some of them are new,
Okay.
some of them are old.
And that's,
I replaced, what am I gonna do, put it on bad wood? No, you know.
and I think that's the issue why you're here before us. Because the replacement sort of triggers something that says to us that you need a permit. And knowing what you have there, I think, without being 100% certain, I think you were diligent about replacing it exactly the way it was. The question is, you did it without a permit. The solution is for you to put in a permit, and we will rule on the permit, and you will wind up with what you have, but we need a permit for it. Because, I'm sorry, what?
So, if I may, Mr.
Go ahead,
Chair.
Mike.
So, when you said before, Mr. Coppler, that people take their docks out and then put them back into the water and they'll replace the parts of their dock, that may be true, but when people are removing their docks, they're either aluminum docks that aren't bound into the bed of the lake, or they're floating docks where if you replace a float, and that's actually beneficial because you're not going to be losing plastics into the lake. There's nothing wrong with resurfacing your dock. People have asked me multiple times if they can just touch the deck. Nothing wrong with just touching the deck. It's only when you go into the lake bed, because while what appears to be here is small posts that you're driving into high-level mud,
6 feet of mud.
that's not true everywhere, and in the interest of being consistent about where is the line on maintenance, it's been, are you going to mess with what's actually anchoring into the lake? As for the wetlands application is $215, and you already have a dock permit stating what size dock you can have. It's not overly onerous, the application, and we can assist you in the office with all the paperwork you would have to fill out.
I just don't see why I even gotta pay for a dock, pay for a permit for the dock. I just think it's ridiculous, it's a refurbish.
Again, the refurbish ends at on the top. Once you get to the bottom and into the lake bed, we consider it not a refurbishment.
Well, I've got old posts too, you guys didn't
I
look
said,
at it.
I
Look
said,
at where it's sitting.
some of them,
Mine is sitting
some
on
of,
just 2x6s.
some of them are original, and some of them aren't. The aren'ts are the issue. So,
I'm a contractor. I just put in a gas line for a neighbor. I came down here, I pulled a permit for that because it's permittable. My license covers it, and I was able, and it was like a $700 permit. I have to have it tested by the building inspector. It requires a permit. I just cannot see where this
well,
has to be.
I think the simplest remedy is for you to see it, put in a permit, and the likelihood is we're gonna move ahead. I think the commission would be comfortable with an agent determination because the work is completed already. So, you know, we're not asking you to do anything
All right,
that's
fine.
not
Mr.
out of the
Chair.
question.
That's fine.
Okay?
We're good.
Michael, we good with that?
The only note I would make is that I can't actually make an agent determination for activity in
Okay, because
a
it's in
water
the lake
course.
bed.
Yeah, I
Then
can't actually, they don't have that statutory power.
The remedy will be, we'll leave it the way it is, put in an application, you'll come back before us next month, and the likelihood is it'll be approved because of
Okay.
the conversation now.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
And thank you for cooperation.
Good idea.
All right, have a good night. The next order of business is another cease and desist order for 257 Colebrook Road, and it's a construction ongoing without an inland wetlands permit. Is there anybody here from representing? Michael, anything?
So, 257 Colebrook Road, this is one that's come before the commission before, I believe in 2019, or perhaps in 2018, because I believe Mr. Sadlowski was still here. Essentially, and I can pass these pictures around, though I think there are some in your packet. The owner has a house that's right by a stream. It's one of the feeder streams of the Mad River. It's over on the other side, and you have to cross a footbridge to get it. The house is a fat L shape. If you think about it as it's 3 rectangles in the back and 2 rectangles in the front with a little area. That was the way it always was in 2018 when he purchased it, I believe. But he chose to take down that final back rectangle completely, rip the entire thing out, and then start rebuilding without any sort of permit. Doesn't have a survey which shows what was where it was beforehand, confirming that everything is actually consistent with his new rebuild. He didn't take any building permits or electrical permits. We have some pictures that he appears to be running a pipe to the water that is drawing water up for his house. So he's interacting with the wetlands. He's immediately adjacent to the wetlands. There were never any controls down. We've attempted to work with this individual in the past, and there have been some altercations in the office where he is very forceful in his opinion that what he is doing is a rebuild that doesn't need any permits. But he has to come in for something. We attempted to send him something for zoning, and he walked out of the office, and I haven't heard anything from him in 2.5 months. So we've moved on to also sending him something for wetlands. State statute, it's within 100 feet of a watercourse. He's got to have a permit. I don't know precisely what the remedy is, but he should have a survey that shows where the house is in relation to the watercourse. If the commission wants him to make improvements that would make the irrigation, or rather erosion on the site less likely to happen, we have the right to ask that.
Did he excavate it all? Or is he going
As-
off of a foundation?
As far as I know, and I haven't been over the bridge, my interactions have entirely been when he has been there, we spoke on his driveway, or I've been on the road. I don't have a permit, and I don't have a search warrant, so I don't go on his property. It looks to me that there wasn't new excavation, but I'm not building official. I don't know if he
If
dug
I
the
might,
piers.
for Steve and Jackie, maybe Andrea. Rick was chairman at the time. This is going up Colebrook River Road, and Colebrook River or Colebrook?
Colebrook Road.
Colebrook Road, on the left.
183, right?
Yeah, and it was very vegetated. And we had received several complaints because he had cleared, there was a lot of grading and excavating on this side of the stream, between the road and the stream. And like Michael said, you have to access a footbridge to get to the other side. So he had kept appearing until such point that he ran out of time. It was denied. Steve Sadlowski was the planner at the time. and it just kind of
From
never
what-
was followed up with, it was never resolved, all that clearing. And a few years go by, 4 or 5 years, and now you have the addition. Either way, he's gonna need a building permit for, unless, he tears it down. It's a addition without any kind of permits whatsoever. You need Torrington Area Health District approval, you need the building department approval, you need zoning approval, and because of its proximity to the water, you need wetlands approval.
It's part of a slate of permits he's gonna need to make right. I don't think, and again, I'm couching all this as, I can't know for sure, because I haven't been right up to it. I think he built on the same elevated platform that was there before, but I don't know. And until we have a plan, we won't know the extent of what he did.
The dilemma is, he's not willing to submit a plan for anything.
If he doesn't submit a plan, then I have the statutory right to start finding him or send it to Kevin Nelligan to go to court.
Would it be beneficial for you to talk with planning and zoning and everybody else who's involved in this process so that it's a united front rather than everybody individually taking a different approach possibly?
It is, I think there's an abatement, there's definitely a
There's an
zoning
abatement order from
violation.
building.
Yeah.
There's a zoning violation out, and my letters to Chairman Clausen notify him that this is ongoing. And I notified that I was sending it along to Wetlands this month as well. So everyone knows. It's just, I'll make sure that everyone's aware that I'm really starting to push on this.
So then move ahead with it.
Yeah, it has to go.
Okay,
Um,
thank you. Anything else on this situation?
Nothing that I have.
Pam, anything else to add? No? Okay, next order of business is Lee Tenney and Rachel Tenney. It's a cease and desist order. 203 West Wakefield Boulevard, a dock expansion without a permit. You please identify yourself, sir.
Lee Kenny.
Thank you.
So I received this letter today to come here tonight.
And thank you for coming then.
Absolutely. Regarding a dock expansion, and that dock expansion was really twofold. It was putting metal docks in like 2 years ago, and then it was adding on to an already approved floating dock. When I came into the town hall, I was told that I didn't apply for a permit for those extensions and that I needed to remove them. Somebody came by, I guess, my house on the 2nd of May and noticed that that had not been done, which is 100% accurate. But at the end of the day, what they should have also noticed is those metal docks were removed from the lake, and they sit on a floating dock because I haven't had a chance to get to it. I haven't gone into the lake, I haven't used the lake. Right now, I'm spending my time removing a deck that I've been forced to remove. So it's not me ignoring what I need to do, it's I can only do one thing at one time. But the docks are not in the water, they've been removed from the
Are you
water.
saying to this commission that you're going to file a permit and take the proper steps to ensure what you want to do and get approval for it or disapproval?
I'm telling the committee that I'm following the direction that I was asked to follow, which is to remove the decks,
Okay.
the docks.
Now, removing them is part of the solution. My sense is you're going to want them back in the water or some form of them back in the water.
I would love to at some point in time, and, in order to do that, I would apply for the appropriate.
Okay, so
Yes.
you're aware of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then,
I'm removing them so that I can adhere to what was being asked of me, and then I'll take the necessary next steps going forward to try to get what I want.
okay. Are there any, you say dock expansions, Michael, is there any expansions in the water or it's all on land?
So everything, it's a complicated waterfront, and I added a picture to the comments I gave you.
Yep.
Essentially, there was what was approved. I overdrew in red. That was, we had a long conversation where we dug up all the files with Mr. Tenney. That was in red. What was actually approved, and then there was additions put onto that which far exceed that. Now, some addition might be doable. You are allowed a maximum of 320 square feet of dock. So it's possible that you may still be able to have some of what's there, but we will need an application based on the recent survey where you show what would be changing. It was sent because I believe we had our conversation with Mr. Tenney in, I want to say, either early December or late November of last year. It's been 6 months and the dock still the situation had been fully remedied, so I sent the letter.
Okay.
No, absolutely.
All right,
Have you been swimming yet?
that's for purposes of clarity. The dock is gonna remain on land.
The dock is, I'm disassembling it, yes.
Okay, will remain on land and will not go into the water until the permit is submitted and approved or denied.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that fair?
Absolutely.
Okay? We good?
Fine with me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Give me a minute to make a note.
Yeah.
I don't think I have your phone number.
Area code 248 202 5444.
5444. Okay, perfect. Thank you. That'll make that a lot easier.
Okay, Camp Wani. Anybody here?
To report, the day after our last meeting, so I think April 21st, Mr. Stricker called me again and asked what the commission said at the meeting, to which I said, well, they upheld the cease and desist order because there was no one here, and it does look like something's been going on with sand at the lake, to which Mr. Stricker told me that it's a standard maintenance practice. And I said, well, you can make an application, provide evidence that what you're doing is not bringing in new sand, that this is standard maintenance across camps all across the country, explain what you're doing, provide some clarity on what's happening there, and put that issue to bed. Mr. Stricker then noted that he was very upset, felt he was being picked on, and would be in contact with the town manager, to which I said, very well, sir, have a nice day. I've heard nothing since.
Okay. Can we move forward with anything beyond notifying him that he's under a cease and desist situation?
I will, if he doesn't have something into me, some evidence that he's preparing an application by the next meeting, I can send him a citation.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you very much. The next cease and desist order, the last one, is at 240 Per Track Trail, Sandy Drive 3, LLC. Michael?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Not a peep.
Any more work being done?
Not that I can see from the road. The pallets are gone. I didn't walk to the back to see if the patio was installed because, in truth, it isn't relevant. They already started installing and they haven't addressed it. They haven't called me. If they took everything away, great. I have a feeling that's not going to be the case. I'm sending him a letter for something entirely different on a different property, so we'll see if he contacts me about that.
Are you within your rights to visit to see if the patio was completed?
I believe because, well, I have to check what my rights are. He has his CO. So he has the CO. I have to see if I have the right to go onto the property.
Driveway done?
The driveway is finished.
That's all.
So everything's done.
Everything's done and there's a CO issued. I don't think I can just visit the property. If I can get access through a neighbor's property, I could, but I don't have, that would be Mr. Chinook to the south, or I actually don't know the property owner to the north.
Isn't there a right-of-way next to it?
Right away.
We have a
Track Trail
maintenance right-of-way over it. I don't, for the I'm not certain if I can walk over the maintenance right-of-way that we have over the pipe if I'm not repairing the
No,
pipe.
but I think that there's a managing member of the association that abuts this parcel that would grant rights.
I'll look into it.
And I can confirm for the record that he did receive the order on April 16th, prior to your April 20th meeting. So this is two
Okay.
no-shows.
So you'll follow up that way?
And if I don't have anything by June, I can send a citation.
Okay, very good. Okay. Thank you. Old business, David Prego, 656 East Wakefield Boulevard. Please identify yourself for the record.
Good evening, I'm Dave Pago, 656 East Wakefield Boulevard. So I guess what we're trying to hear is in regards to breaking up some rock to make room for a boat lift. So the last time I was here, you asked for the procedure that the thought there was gonna use in order to do what we're trying to accomplish. And
Believe, Pam, that was in everyone's packet.
Yes, yep, it sure was.
We have it in our file?
You do.
Okay.
I think Russ wanted this done.
Yeah,
Schedule.
are you, I think Gary at the time raised the question of whether or not the rock that's under the wall, so to speak, it protrudes out from the wall, is gonna compromise the integrity of the wall?
Right, so when I had work done down near the lake, you know, the dock, and they did some seawall work. The idea was he was gonna remove the rock with the excavator, but later found when they removed that, there was an old ferry dock there. It was a cement slab on top of rock, so when he looked at the job, he didn't see what was underneath it. He thought it was a pile of rocks, but there was one big
You
rock
have one big rock.
that was part of the seawall
Right.
that you can't pull out. It just needs it needs to be shaved off.
One of the things we talked about was the extent of the shaving off.
You know.
You need to fit the two legs, or one leg, where that rock is, or somewhere near that rock, so that, if I remember, you want to bring your boat lift so that you enter the boat lift from the front, stepping straight on to from the land.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Right.
Yep. So
And-
there's actually, and we tried getting around having to deal with that rock, but there's two more rocks that are, in front of that, where the rear legs have to go.
That's completely different. The rear legs meaning 10 feet out into the water.
Yeah, but.
That wasn't, I don't think that was any part of the conversation. I thought the conversation, the rock you talked about, was you stand on the wall, look straight down.
Well, that's one rock, but there should be photos, I think there was, I don't know,
There are
I think they
photos
said
of
7
two others.
photos, there was more than one rock, yeah. And there's another rock that kind of just sticks above, and that can't come out either, that's just got to be shaved off. But in order to get the boat lift in there, any way they jockeyed it around, if they cleared one rock, and another, you know, because the 4 legs and another rock would be in the way, it just wasn't gonna happen, to get that lift.
So what's the solution that you're asking for?
So the solution we were asking for is that this squat there comes in and he chisels off that one rock from the seawall and then shaves down the other, or breaks it off or shaves it down, whatever he's gotta do to, get it out of the way of the 4 legs.
I don't know, shaving it down, to me, means you're gonna try to bring it down to the lake bed surface,
Yeah,
and then use that rock to sit on. That's gonna be the support for one of your legs.
yeah. It's probably, yes, it's exactly what's gonna happen.
So, can I say something? So this was originally approved to be taken out as part of the original
Correct.
demolition,
This is a revision because the
but
machine.
the machine couldn't get
The machine
all these
couldn't get
rocks
it
out.
It
So,
was gonna cause more disturbance, more issues than it would be to just remove the peak of it, I guess, and leave the rest of it in the lake.
it really seems to be the best solution.
How many rocks are we talking about? Because you're talking about the rock that is part of the wall, and then how many other rocks?
I think there was, in the
No,
photos, I think there was like
very
4.
little impact.
Yeah.
So it's not just one rock, it's 4 rocks.
But they were supposed to come out with the original demolition.
There was approval for them to come out originally.
Right.
and because of the circumstances where the machine couldn't reach out, then it's not gonna work.
Couldn't
So
what?
now you're
They were
asking to
bigger than what they
modify
thought.
that by shaving it down or whatever.
Correct.
Then,
Them down.
Yeah, so in the beginning, I had a, you know, seawall work and that cantilever dock. Matt Clausen did the work, but there was no, and so that was included in the cost to remove it. But when he pulled that pier out of there, there were rocks that just couldn't be, and those are rocks I'm talking about.
Shaking your head.
It was approved,
I'm
he's
just,
just
you
cleaning
know-
up the loose ends here, really.
Yeah.
And, you know, we asked him to go get a letter of what was gonna be done, and Gothier's gonna do it, and it really seems.
Now, my
cut and
sense you
dry.
won't be able to do that until the drawdown?
Not until fall.
That's the drawdown.
Fall or spring, whatever his work schedule. It doesn't matter to me whether it's fall or spring.
You can't do it with water on the lake.
He what?
You can't do it while there's water,
Correct,
so it's gotta be at the drawdown
correct,
prior to it coming back up.
correct. So preferably, when do
Soon.
they draw it down in November?
November. This year,
So
November.
it's probably gonna be around that time, November.
Will the drawdown allow you access to the rocks out, away from the wall?
Yes, it will.
It's a really shallow,
Yeah, I was
long
there, I
slope
saw
right
it, but I
there.
just, you know. Anybody?
it just, I just have a problem, because I just feel like we're altering the whole lake bottom. And, you know, we don't let somebody put a pole in the water, and yet somebody can just dig up the rocks in the bottom and break them up. I mean, it just seems contradictory to me.
In a way, this is less invasive than what was approved, right? If it comes down to you have to get an excavator in and just pull something out
Left with a
versus you
hole.
just take a wet saw or a jackhammer or whatever it is, take a part of it off, you're actually disturbing the tectonic base and all the soil less.
We got rid of all that concrete that was
Yeah.
there. All that concrete is gone now, so.
All that's out of the water.
Yeah, it's all out of the water, and that's a good thing, and you just gotta clean up the loose ends.
I think the only conversation that we should have, and it came up, last winter, we had several applications similar to yours, shaving down the rocks, let's leave it at that. And one of the commissioners who's not here tonight, his position was that there's gonna be a lot of foot traffic on the lake bed. And he suggested, and everybody agreed, that they'd like plywood down, walk on the plywood as opposed to the lake bed, remove the plywood, obviously, when you're done. You're shaking your head, so that's not an issue at all, if that were part of the
It'd be
application.
very simple to do.
Yeah,
that.
we don't wanna make it overcomplicated,
Yep.
but we sort of wanna respect, his thinking on it.
And I think Gothier probably has done that in the past, every time he's done that.
And he assured me that what there's not gonna be any machinery in the water, it's a hand, anything they used is, like a drill or chisel, light tools.
Good.
There's not gonna be any machinery going into the lake bed or
Okay.
anything like that, it's very light duty. He made it sound like it's not a big deal. And I think didn't he put his process was in there where he was gonna.
No, we have it.
All right.
So we can go by and see that, yep, it's everything that's gonna be done.
All right, the only thing I would like is, because it's so far from now, could be November, just before your contractor is saying, I'm ready to go, just alert Michael,
Just give me a call.
You got it.
all right?
That's one of the standard 12
Yeah, I know,
conditions.
but.
But you
because-
remind them while they're standing
Yeah.
here that, yes,
Yeah.
please follow.
All right,
Lots of people don't.
all right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve modification IWWC 20-56, with the condition that he uses plywood to protect the lake bed during the work.
And work be done.
Second. Say it again, Pam.
Work be done during the drawdown.
And second by Gary. Any conversation on it? All those in favor of approval? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, Jackie?
I abstain.
Same. Okay, 6 to 1 with 1 extension. Thank you very much. Just let us know when you begin.
Thank you all very much.
My guess is, just, I don't think we need a bond.
Too late, you voted.
Pardon?
You
You
voted.
voted.
Okay,
He doesn't have
goodbye.
to give you one.
Goodbye.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Come on, Pam, you got my back.
Sorry,
Yeah, we'll
sorry.
send you your notification, and then we'll
Yeah.
also send you a notification for your zoning permit, because that can be
Thank you.
listed now.
Okay, have a good night.
Good night.
All right, application IWWC 22-08. There's a public hearing scheduled for June 15th, so I don't think we have to take any action on it at all, other than note it. Do we have to continue
Nothing,
it?
it just puts it on the agenda so people who are looking for it see it.
Okay. Under new business, application 22-10, a modification of 21-40. The applicant is Richard and Carol Josefek. It's 104 Shore Drive, and the proposal is to add a retaining wall between driveway and house.
I can speak to this one.
But maybe you just continue, he's probably saw a long agenda and he's coming, right? It's not just, not continue it, but delay it for this evening until he shows.
You want us to revisit it at the end of the meeting, or at the
Because
end
there's
of?
several, the following two as well. That where they're not here, and it could be because they saw 5 show cause hearings and,
Okay, so then, application 22-10, 22-11, and 22-12.
just
You're
delay.
asking us to table it until the end of the meeting? Everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah, do we need a motion for that?
No, you just,
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Donald Lapointe, the owner is Robert Bates and Tracy Bates at 428 East Wakefield Boulevard. Add a deck to shed, use lakefront for irrigation system. Identify yourself for the record, Donald.
Good evening, Commission. My name's Don LaPointe. I'm the contractor for Robert Bates at 428 East Wakefield Boulevard. This application is pretty much a modification to what we already had approved a couple of years back. I'm not exactly sure, I think it was 2020. For a shed that was 12 by 16 shed that was approved to be put on that property. Approximately, I think you have the site plan might include on the application. I took a picture of the stairs and the deck that we built, which I wasn't aware that I needed a permit to do that, so so that's why I'm here. The shed that we put in there, even though it was approved for 12 by 16, I think it was on the notes, we were only able to put a 10 by 14 because the area of where we were putting the shed was just too steep of ledge. So we had to hammer out like 2.5 feet of ledge to get that shed in anyways. So, consequently, to put the shed, this was 10 by 12, or 12 by, or 10 by 14, I'm sorry, it's 140 square feet. And I believe the deck is like 9 by 7, 9 by 6, like 50 square feet, 50 to 60 square feet off the shed. And that's, I think I've left the dimensions here, I think it's approximately 8 feet off the line of the wall, where the property line is.
Okay, so you're coming before us as a result of Michael visiting the site,
Correct.
and you're asking, obviously you're going to need a permit or modification of what was originally submitted.
Yes, I mean, right, I guess the shed was permitted to be there under the original wetlands agreement, but the problem was the deck was not approved.
And the steps.
Yes, that's correct. So we built the shed, obviously we needed to come out of there, to get off, to get out of there. So, I think if I put the square footage down, I think it's pretty much close to what, almost close to what we had before for 200 square feet for the shed.
What was there before that, because I see these stone steps coming down into the top.
Well, that's all, the stone steps to the top, those are the walls, the new walls that were approved, part of this whole site plan, those walls.
So that staircase was approved inside of that wall design?
That's all part of the walls.
Okay.
but
So-
this isn't accurate, right, Don? Because there's stairs that protrude out into the water that are not depicted on what was approved in 2020.
I thought we were redressing.
Those
stairs
are
to the lake.
pre-existing. The stairs are pre-existing, but
Yeah, the stairs are pre-existing to the lake.
the site plan though is, this isn't an updated site plan. So as you can see, this is a partial site plan. This is a copy of the site plan that was approved last time. It doesn't show the deck or the stairs on it. For full discussion with why Mr. LaPointe has been asked to return is that whenever you have a deck within 20 feet of the waterfront, that also requires a variance from planning and zoning. So he has to go back before both this body as well as another. That was a variation of the originally approved plan. There were 3 walls that were originally called for. The topography of the site was altered. Mr. LaPointe put in 2. So there are some deviations from the originally approved plan. It's up to this commission as to whether you will require him to submit a new updated revised site plan with all of the updates to the existing topography, the changes to the walls, the placement of the deck before you want to consider it. It's not 100% current, so it's reasonable to ask that of the applicant. So what we would ask anybody of is to locate their things on the plan. You could ask them to draw it on the plan, or if it's your pleasure, since there was variation in the walls, and it's so close to the water, you could ask him to have it updated. I believe this was based on a survey by John DeCara. That does appear to be his work.
ZBA is definitely it needs to be updated, definitely for ZBA.
Well, and we probably required as-builts once this was all done, right?
The lake well, I'm not sure.
The
This-
whole plan.
I would wanna look at
I have to go
the,
back. I wasn't here.
ZBA will definitely require an updated site plan.
yes,
John was
you're not getting anything
Well,
from
we might as well
ZBA
use
with
it
it.
too. You know what I'm saying?
So that
They're
we
gonna
don't
do it anyways.
necessarily have to ask for one if they're asking. for
Well, no,
Ms.
because,
Boyd's come
submit the same
before,
one.
you know, unlike planning and zoning and wetlands, ZBA and wetlands are actually completely disconnected. You can go before wetlands and then 2 years later go before ZBA. That's actually what Mr. Joseph did with his original approval from the people who owned the property before him. So if this commission grants it without one, you know, he wouldn't necessarily have to. He doesn't have to go back before ZBA. He's going to because I'm going to make him. But
why do you say that he wouldn't have to go, I'm not catching
he's
it.
going to have to go back before ZBA. But for example, if Mr. LaPointe wasn't planning to go to ZBA for another 2 years, if this wasn't an outstanding violation,
Right.
and this commission didn't ask for that, he wouldn't necessarily have to produce it at the same time, right? If he was just going to produce it for ZBA and you didn't ask one for him, he could get it done 2 years later. But if you want it,
Well, I think if he has to go to the expense of getting one anyways for the other commission, then why not have us take a look at it too?
And then, do you have the old file, was an as-built required? for
I
the well?
have the current file. I don't think I have the original wetlands file where an as-built was requested, but I'll pull that in the morning to see if one was needed.
It was not requested.
Permit twenty
Now,
dash
why
42.
the variation? Why you went from 2 walls, 3 walls to 2 walls? And
The original plan calls for 3 walls.
I know.
Okay, so when we put the first wall up, and then we noticed the grade change, now don't forget, there's ledge on this property. So we put the first wall in, then we came up to meet the stairs coming up, so we have stairs coming down to the water. So obviously, the first wall and the second wall, there's like a difference of about 2.5 feet. When you can't come down the stairs at 2.5 feet. So we terraced the wall back 24 inches and then came up another 18 inches. Mike is calling that 1 wall, I call that 2 walls, okay? So he's trying to find out from the building department, whoever, that is, in my opinion, that's 2 walls.
why didn't you come before us or talk to Mike or Pam that you were changing the construction and mechanism to accomplish what you?
There's no changes, I mean, there's still 3 walls.
One of the walls has gotten, regardless of my discussion with building official Mark Melanson for his retirement earlier in the month, was that this was 1 wall, and what he told me, and though I don't have the building code segment, what he told me is building code says that it's considered 1 wall if it's a retaining wall, and the distance between the 2 walls is not equivalent, if the run isn't equivalent to the rise, essentially. If the distance between your 2 retaining walls is not at least as many inches as the walls together go up, then if they fail, they're gonna fail together, is how he described it to me. And so there isn't at least 42 inches between these 2 walls in total, or at least I don't know if it's the first wall or the second wall, but there definitely isn't 24 inches. There's a couple inch setback between these two walls. So when I discussed with him, that was what he told me. I haven't had a chance to meet with our
He
current
told you
building
you don't need
inspector.
to. You
No,
got that
to
money,
get
right,
the
right.
number of the reg, but that's what he told me, which would require a building permit for those walls. So that's another thing, but that's outside of this commission's scope. But you know, it is a variation, even if it's the placement of the walls has changed, regardless of whether or not they're different walls. If it's two walls or one, the placement of the walls did change. So it's a variation. That's why we asked him to come back in.
What's the remedy? We need him to submit
We need
a
him to-
modification.
He has submitted a modification. That's what this is. It has come in with, this is the partial of the old site plan based on the old survey on which this was approved. Should be updated with the changes, the new features on it, the deck, the stairs, and the changes to the wall placement, as we would ask anybody to do.
I think it's beneficial that you do another survey, only for if the house gets sold later on, we're back in the same position.
You mean a site plan?
The site plan. We're back in the same position where somebody's gonna come in, you got an illegal setup,
Yeah.
so it has to, an as-built has to be done now on what you have. What you have existing right now, but there's no need to do the as-built right now until he gets permission for the deck. If he doesn't get permission from zoning for the deck,
This is the.
why wouldn't you just do the as-built one time?
Fine.
Yeah. I agree with that. Like that we should require an as-built
After
that,
completion.
that does,
The only problem with that, you might be paying twice. So say you get a surveyor that just draws in, the configuration of the deck and puts it on the survey.
Yeah.
And then the surveyor goes out there and there's other things that you also need approval from ZBA.
well, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, so he either draws it now with the deck on it and all of the other modifications
But
and,
the
and,
survey-
and hope that we approve it, or
Or
if we-
ZBA.
or
approved,
ZBA,
right.
if it doesn't get approved, then he has to take that off and submit an as-built without it. So it's like
I
6
would
of
think
one,
you're,
half
I
dozen of
think
the
we're
other.
better off to have it all done at one time after he goes through ZBA, personally. It's a one-shot
Do you have any
deal.
preference how
I
you want to
think too.
approach this?
I guess, so the reason being that I have to go to ZBA is because decks need to be approved even
If they're within 20 feet of the water,
feet of the water.
that's our regs.
All right, so that's one, okay.
Does the homeowner still want the deck?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you gotta,
Well,
you gotta
What
go
about the
upstairs,
wall?
and there's like 5 steps coming down.
If it's over
And
48
there's 30
inches,
inches to get out of
could be
out of the shed.
violation,
You know,
but
it's
Just
that's the
asking.
thing.
we gotta find out.
Shed, you gotta
Because if it's
yeah.
2418,
So communicate that now, because that's why it's not just the deck, because if you get rid of the deck,
the walls
you still
so-
might have
right,
violations.
so the walls, if it's one wall and it's 30, if it counts as one wall, as our building official indicated, and it's 42 inches high, then that's greater than 3 feet. So it has to be noted to be, that'd be part of the variance as well, because if you're within 20 feet of Highland Lake and you got a wall over 36 inches, you also have to have that on your variance application.
Yeah.
So, if those two walls became one wall, as our building official indicated that they did, then that would be on the variance as well. So these two changes will require variance, but they're also changes to the wetlands approval, and they're within wetlands, so they need wetlands.
And I agree with that because I understand you say that the wall, what we're looking at here, where the wall and these stone steps meet the deck wasn't permitted, is part of the plan, but it's actually not on the plan. The wall doesn't show as abutting the area around the deck, right? It shows as stopping there. And so that's my confusion also, because I don't see that wall or those steps anywhere on this plan.
I think the major problem, if I may say something, we have to determine whether or not, where he could prove, the building department can prove that this is one wall or 2 walls. That's what we need to do, number one, right now. That's what we need to do, is find the regulations that shows what is a definition of 1 wall and 2 walls. That's what we need to do first and foremost. Because right now, I call it 2 walls. If you go on the property, it's 2 walls. If they're gonna call it 1 wall, then let's see how they determine what's 1 wall, what's 2 walls.
Regardless of whether or not it's one wall or two wall, there does have to be a variance made It's just whether or not it's for the deck or both the deck
Yeah, no, I
and the
agree.
walls.
I agree.
So
We-
it's
we-
not.
We need to do that, I just gotta figure out, so we gotta go to ZBA for the deck, I agree, what are we going there for? Are we going there for the deck? We're not going for the wall, what are we going for? We're just going for the deck?
Well,
you know, the
staff will.
elevations would, you know, having your survey updated would, usually when someone has a question for the land use office, I wanna do A, B, C, what do I need to do? We say, locate it on a plan, and then, you know, we look at the plan, well, you're gonna need this, this, and this.
If
So, you know, without the plan, you know, with the top of the wall elevations, bottom of the wall elevations, you know, having it updated will let us see what we've got, what we're dealing with, and what you need to get right.
Yeah, and I also recommend maybe with regard to the shed and the deck and the stairs, you superimpose it over what was approved, because you said you made the shed smaller. So it would be useful to understand that, you know, where it sits in relationship to what was
Yeah, I
actually
mean, the
approved.
shed is pretty much, I located, I measured off the pins, I mean, and I wrote that down on the sketch that I did there. I mean, the pins are right there, so it's not in relationship to what the shed was originally approved for on the original site plan. I mean,
This is a new application, okay? It falls under a new application.
oh, so
for us.
now we're turning this from modification to a new
No,
application?
no, no. It's a
Listed-
modification of an existing application that was
Right,
approved
but
in
it's
2020.
listed under new application. Typically, we can either approve the modifications, but under your circumstances, we really can't. There's too much out there that's not addressed. Or we can simply accept it. We've had an extensive conversation where I hope that you have an understanding of what we need for approval and what you need to do, or the homeowner needs to do, and submit to us prior to the next meeting, or it can be continued to the following meeting before we can act on an approval. So that's sort of where we're at. The modification is not gonna be approved tonight. There's too much out there.
Yeah.
So,
Do we need to discuss the pump also?
who?
Irrigation pump?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, again, we didn't get to that, but I'm just, you know,
Yeah.
trying to, so,
yeah, I'm trying to figure out, you know, where we're going first. Are we gonna go with an as-built now, what we have, or are we gonna wait till the job is finished? I don't know where we are. I mean, the walls are pretty much done. The stairs are being poured
That's
tomorrow.
right. If
So,
you, don't send the surveyor out there twice.
Right, you have to,
Do the as-built.
but you can't put your deck on, you have to.
The
you're-
deck's already on.
that's all right.
Right,
It's already on, so you're going back for that now,
but
too.
he may have to take it off the deck if it
Well,
doesn't
I
go
don't,
through.
I don't think we do the as-built. I,
For the lake
So,
wall?
so commissioners,
drawings here.
if I may offer two courses forward. Either what has to be done is, if the feeling is we don't want to potentially get the survey updated and then have everything ripped out and then get another survey done, or get it updated and then get it updated again with the as-built, then you could accept an updated, you could accept the survey with just superimposition of, you know, where things are supposed to be, updated by a surveyor. You could accept that by an applicant. I don't think that's correct in this case. I think that it should be done by a surveyor, that the new deck and the new wall should be located, because it is a derivation of an approved plan. But something has to, we have to have a current plan with the deck, the stairs, and the wall location shown. As for whether or not, as to exactly what has to be on your variance, staff will assist you with precisely whether one or two things have to be on your variance. Our understanding is it will need to be two things, and that you should ask for those two. But again, we can assist you with your variance application at that time, as you put it
Let me
in.
just take my experience, Gary can back. My point would be, is to get an as-built done now, to know exactly where everything is, and then go according, how are we gonna go forward, just guessing? Right?
Yeah?
So you need to get an as-built now, so you know exactly, because we're not moving these walls are, you know, they're 8 feet thick.
Right.
So we need to go with an as-built that's there now, and if there's a problem with them being, you know, off a little bit compared to what the plan, it was a plan before for wetlands, you know, when you get out there and do a job, some things, you know, they move things. I mean, it's just way
What
too.
distance now, what are you
Huh?
talking, what, in distance, what is moving?
Oh, we ain't moving, you know, 5 feet here. It's not like we move the major feet. You know, it's just a few feet here, a few feet there. It's not like we didn't move it into the lake. It's just a matter of how we position it to the topography of the property. I mean, you guys are welcome to come out can see, I mean, that the place has not been there for a year and a half, and there's no erosion control, there's no, everything is fine.
Well, there is erosion control. There isn't erosion control
Erosion-
failure.
yeah,
There is. I'm going to help you
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I'm
There
sorry.
is
I mean,
erosion
there's no-
control.
There's erosion control, but there's no problems with the erosion.
Erosion.
Okay, that's what I meant to say, all right? But the walls are fine, they're solid, they're all done with hands cut stone. I mean, it's, you know, it's quite the piece. And I think you guys need to see it.
If everything's in place, deck's in place, your walls are in place, then do your as-built. And
Right, and then if we need, if they're
you
invited,
have to change
if
it
something
after
needs
that,
to
you
be
have to
changed,
change it after
go to
that.
ZBA, then like I said, Mike, I think we need to go there with some kind of, you know, we can't just, you know, guess at this stuff. Let's just
no,
put it
no.
down,
Some-
and then go through the form, the formality,
Yeah.
and then we'll just do it that way, that makes the most sense.
Why don't you, for conversation purposes, limit what you need to do for us,
Bring us the as-built.
okay?
Yeah,
So,
get an as-built done.
because we're not ZBA,
Yeah.
so, you know,
So
let
you want me
their,
to bring the as-built to you guys first? And then from there, we go to ZBA?
Technically, they're completely disconnected to commissions. You can make your ZBA application now. I mentioned this. It's not like PZC where you have to do wetlands first before PZC. You can make your ZBA application now and do them simultaneously.
Michael, at the far end of this, if he gets a failure at the ZBA,
Yep.
he has to come back here with another plan.
Yep.
Because this plan gets ripped up, thrown away, because it's not approved.
Yep.
And
Like,
there's a new one, and the new one has to go on a file.
Is there anything left to do? What else do you have to do?
No, finish up so the stairs are going in now, and then the walls get put into the stairs, so you can turn it into the stairs.
So an as-built
So
is the way
you're,
to go.
so you're doing walls up
Pretty
here.
much. And we're gonna finish up some of the walls, yeah. So
Everything is where it's gonna be.
So you're talking about doing walls along the stairs leading up from, you know, say the, second tier up to the, near the deck? Is that, are those the stairs that,
No, the stairs are, the walls are gonna go into the stairs, and they return back into the property level. They're not going up.
Are the-
Just gonna
there's no
return in.
walls on the other side
are
of
the,
the stairs,
are the
right?
stairs part of the original approval?
Yes.
The
They are.
stairs are, but are there any, is there any, wall planned for the other side of the stairs between this one and the northerly side of the property? Between this house and Wilkes?
No, there's no walls on that side.
So it's just, those are,
Just on the stairs, from the stairs to the shed. That makes sense.
yep.
Yeah, that's the only site where there's walls. The rest of it's all the original bank.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are welcome to walk to the site and see it.
No, but
I mean,
it- you know,
sometimes it makes
right.
more sense if you look at it.
No, I don't think so. I think they connect the walls. For purposes of clarity, the stairs connect the walls?
Well, the stairs start from the top and they go down to the waterfront.
They have
And then
nothing
the
to,
wall, huh?
they have nothing to do with the deck?
No.
Okay.
No, the deck is at the other end. The deck has to do with the shed.
Right.
That's all it came from the deck, and what we did is we had the wall go by the shed, and it's tied into the ledge. And then what we did is, to make it useful so that there's a landing in between the two walls, we said to put these granite stairs in so that you could actually go to the shed from the middle of the landing of the property. That's why, like I said, if you want me to do a video, we can do that. If not, you guys are welcome to stop by. But my point is, some of the stuff, I understand, you can draw the walls, you can do this, do that, but as you get out there and start moving dirt around and start making things happen, that's when you make things the final tune. And
Which
that's
is
where it
a very reasonable reason to come back and ask for a modification or go before ZBA and say the ledge made it impossible to place our wall where we originally planned it. Absolutely normal. It's a condition of the property, and the moment you dig 3 inches below the surface, you'd never know what you're gonna run into. But if the applicant's amenable to getting a site plan, the updated site plan as an as-built now, that's,
The only thing I would ask you, Donald, get an updated site plan, right? Put all your stuff on it. If ZBA says you have to take a deck off, or there's a problem, all right, you're gonna have to have a new site plan done on what
Well, I would have to,
is
we would
gonna
have
have
to,
to be finished.
first of all, I wanna say this, okay, where the shed is, we took out 2.5 feet of ledge to get that shed, okay? Just to try to level it. So underneath those stairs and underneath that whole shed is ledge. There's no dirt there.
Right.
It's all ledge. So and that's kind of why this got put over there, is because it's not in the middle of the yard. It's over to the side. And that was the reason why we downsized the shed, because we couldn't just have this big thing sitting up there, because there's just not enough room to put it in the ledge. I'd have to dynamite the place. So, that's kind of, I mean, a lot of this is, we did it as we went, because this is what we could work, we had to work with what we had.
Well, now for this commission and for zoning, you're gonna have to have a plan that is in your file, that is exactly what you want.
Okay, and that makes sense, so I think for us right now, is get John DeCure up there, to come there and build the as-built, do the whole wall the way it is, it's there, it's not like it's gonna move, I mean, it's, you know.
Plural though, right? Walls?
Yeah, the walls,
Yeah.
the stairs.
And do you
everything.
want top of wall, bottom of wall elevation? And I think you would, if there's any chance that you may not have to go before a ZBA. The top of the, it's just something that,
Yeah,
part of your
If you
work
want-
order with John.
If you want to do the as-built now, and I come to the meeting next month for Wetlands, I'll just bring you guys all a copy of the as-built.
Submit it earlier so we can visit the site and look at
Yes,
it.
that's
Okay.
fine.
Yes, fine.
We'll do the
If-
as-built, bring it to the commission, and we'll go from there.
If the commissioners do actually want to visit the site, it is very steep. The stair access is uneven, so just a fair warning, it is a lot going down to it from the 428 access driveway. So just be aware of that if you do wish to visit.
Well, if you know what, I can say, just that we have permission to go down 426
Go
to
to
the Wilkes.
Wilkes' property.
Wilkes has sold that property, so that's been sold for a year.
We have to notify that new owner.
We're able to use the property to work on the property, so we have a right, there is a right of way. There is a
You
right
have
of way.
access rights.
bought-
I don't know
they-
if we would have access rights.
Well, okay.
Are you in communication with the new owners?
Yes,
Would you let them know
yes.
and let Michael know within the next week that?
That they should
some
email Michael
commissioners
to grant permission
Permission
to
for
the
the
commission.
commissioners,
Maybe
yeah.
coming down their driveway and going to
I will speak with the owner and have Carl as his new name, I don't know his last name, his name's Carl. I'll have him email Robert Bates, some kind of
Permission.
message that says permission to allow the
and
commission to come
send
down there.
Pam or Michael a
And
copy.
you'll
of
be able
that.
to walk down, the stairs will be poured tomorrow, so you'll be able to walk on the new concrete stairs most of the way down,
Okay, good.
okay?
Are you sure of what we need of you for next
I'm
month?
gonna get an as-built, the whole property, of the stairs and the walls and the shed, the deck. And, I mean, do we have to do, I know we did, John already did the seawall. That got done already, I think he still has that.
But he'll just, if he's got it, he'll
It'll be on
include
there.
it.
I'll just stick it on there.
So just so the commission, so you're pouring those steps, because on
The
your
orange
original
steps.
2020 plan, it says to be replaced with stone steps. So you're actually, you've got forms and
Well,
you're,
we're doing concrete and we're doing granites on top, so the stone's going on top of this cement.
So it's gonna be a fascia of granite
Granites,
on top.
yeah, it's gonna be granite stairs on top of concrete. So, the guy doesn't want to look at concrete.
No.
But we don't wanna put, there's a lot of work to put stone on top of earth and not have it move. So this is the best way to keep it from stable and keeping it stay there. So,
Okay.
basically, it's the same stone that's here, that's in that picture of the shed. It's a Virginia gray stone.
You good?
Not to put too fine a point on
I'm
it,
sorry,
but,
look up.
not to put too fine a point on it, but that does increase impervious coverage.
That's already been approved, I think, at this, up to
Well,
now.
not if it was approved as stones and not for concrete.
No, bluestone is still impervious. So if it's bluestone over or earth or bluestone over concrete, it's impervious over pervious or impervious over impervious over pervious. It's just how many layers of imperviousness have you added. It doesn't make it more impervious.
Yeah, I know, but
As long as it's not increasing in size, right? If it increases in size, we'll see it on the as-built. And then it would be up to
The only impervious.
This is an extensive piece of property without,
This is the lot.
Yeah,
it's-
this is
He
big.
bought the other property next door.
do you
he
have
tore
the
the
full
house down.
size
Yeah,
drawing?
this is
Look
a-
at the zoning table, is it close to 15 feet?
I don't have it on me. No, I don't have the full size.
It is probably like an acre, but it also has a long gravel driveway, so.
It has a long gravel driveway, but it's also got a lot of trees. We'll see. I mean, John should update, Mr. DeCara,
were
the
the,
surveyor should
were
update
the
it when
two
it comes in.
properties combined? Were
He
they,
was gonna combine, yeah, I mean, they're next door to each other. You don't vote
but
now.
they're still technically separate properties, right?
If you wanna call it legality, yes, but he doesn't own them both.
60 feet?
we know that, yeah.
No, but I think what you're getting
Yeah,
at
it's
is
the
if you
impervious
want to
surface.
borrow coverage for impervious.
Yeah, I know, and I
They'd
don't
have
know
to
whether,
be-
he was gonna add them both together,
Yeah,
so
they'd
I
have to
don't
be
know
legally
if he's gonna do
combined.
that now or
If-
not, but, I mean, he's gonna do it. I mean,
If it
he's
is a
got
problem, they can merge them and it wouldn't be a problem. If
Right.
it isn't a problem, they don't have to.
Yeah.
We'll see
Okay.
when it comes in.
All right,
All I'm saying is that property now goes up to Jerry Gallows, cause he bought it from Gallows next door, and that property goes up to that that three-car garage, it goes all the way to the street now, there's quite a bit of property.
Yeah, no.
It's 0.41 acres, the lower property. And it doesn't appear to be merged. And with the upper property is 0.6, so together, the two parcels are an acre. But the zoning table,
I'll
you
check
should
it.
check that before you
Yeah, I'll check it.
before you add any more impervious surface coverage, because you don't wanna go to ZBA and say, oops, when, you're on record tonight, like, I don't think that the zoning table, it would have been identified back then in 2020.
Yeah, but we only have half of the survey.
Yeah, I only made copies
Yeah.
of the half of it, so.
So, it must not, so long as you're not, you're deviated where the walls are, and you added what would be a pervious deck, just in the, you don't meet the setbacks, but that wouldn't affect coverage.
Right. I'll check it. And if there is something else, we'll address it when it goes before ZBA.
Well, keep in
No,
mind, too,
tomorrow morning, right, like, what else is he adding?
Well, he
What
took a-
else is left?
He took away pervious by cutting his barn down, cutting his building down also.
Cutting the
So
shed.
you got-
But
you got-
isn't
Shed
it-
size got cut down, so I think we're,
Yeah,
I think we're.
but he
fine.
added a deck
Nothing-
and
Here,
Probably
that-
a wall.
that trade-off is on the shed. A 12 by 16 is almost 200 square feet. If you add the deck area and the shed, it comes out to about the same.
But the deck's actually pervious.
But it looks like you've added some stairs, like, off that deck
What
that
do you
aren't
have?
shown on the plan that would be counted as impervious, but hopefully it's negligible, because you can see the granite steps, and John will locate it, and he'll include that in his calculations when he,
John would be able to determine how much of the surface is pervious or impervious.
Yes.
he
And
does.
it's a big piece of property.
Well, it's only 0.4 acres is all the property is,
That's not big.
Because it's two properties that are together 1 acre. They
but they're
have
not,
been merged.
there's
big-
two
the-
properties,
The
and
bigger property was the property that was bought from Gallo?
up by the road,
Really?
yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
you know what,
surprising.
and you know what, if we get done with the as-built done, and we find out that we need to put the two of them together, we'll just put.
Yeah, that'll solve the issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fine, we can just do it.
We'll find
Because
out
there's
when we
nothing on
get
that
the
other property.
Yeah,
There's no house,
no,
there's
it's-
nothing in it.
Yeah.
They took that house and the shed
I
down,
took it down, yeah.
Yeah.
so it's just,
So, I mean, if we had to put them together, his plans were to do that, and if we have to, we'll just do it.
okay.
So,
We good? Anybody with anything else?
No.
All right, so we need a motion to accept.
Accept and continue.
All right,
June
anybody
15th.
make the motion to accept?
I'll make it, motion to accept application 22-13, which is a modification of application 20-42, Donald Point, 428 East Wakefield Boulevard. Add a deck on the approved shed.
Oh,
Well,
Go
that
ahead.
is what it's for, right?
Yep.
To enable entrance and exit, modification to the current approved, retaining walls, and, to add a pump, right, for irrigation?
you're gonna use the lake water for irrigation.
Okay, all right, so we're accepting this application, or I'm making a motion to
And
accept
finding
this
it
application.
as,
Not a significant impact.
Well,
Unless you
I mean,
believe
I
that's a
mean,
significant impact.
or in the public interest.
No,
No,
I don't. I
So
don't-
finding it is not
Yeah,
significant.
I don't see that at all.
yeah,
Anybody? No. Jack,
Okay.
You good? Okay, second?
Second.
Gary, all those in favor of accepting? It's unanimous?
So I'll see you next month with the as-built. And you want
As-built.
at least a week or so.
June 9th.
Permission from the owner to go across the property.
Any last thing?
Permission from
excuse
the owner, which is the old.
The neighboring
property,
property, the
John.
abutting property, good.
Yeah, so you can walk
Yeah.
down that driveway.
Great.
Very
A lot
good.
easier on the
thank
knees.
you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, next application is 22-14. The owner is Michael Gonzalez and Desiree Gonzalez, 424 East Wakefield Boulevard, to install a dock. Do we want to consider both this application and the next one as one or separate?
I believe that it was the applicant's indication that he would like these applications considered as a pair, and he is here tonight.
Okay. Commission comfortable with that?
Sure.
I just for review purposes, probably going back 3-4 months and 5 to 6 months prior to that, on a regular basis, we were entertaining conversations on these two properties. We've had public hearings on them. Some of it was contentious. We've had the town submit a proof of ownership with a title search. I think there was another title search which contradicted that title search by people from Wheeler's Point, and the owner submitted a title search consistent with the town's title search. So that's sort of like the background. Mr. Gonzalez is the owner of both properties, clearly, and he's here before us to ask for a dock and a boat lift. One is a property that he owns as a homeowner, and the other is a right-of-way easement that he owns also.
Property over which two properties have a right to pass.
Okay?
An unprovable lot over which two houses have a right to pass.
I don't know if it's only two.
At least two.
At least
At
two.
least two.
Okay.
May I ask a question
Sure.
of
Me?
you?
Okay.
Everybody, the whole commission, didn't we already see a request for a dock on this property and we denied it? So is this the same?
No, it was a dock he was trying to put on
Well, why don't
This
we,
is on
why
the
don't,
other
why
side
don't
of
we
the
get into the,
property, correct?
before we, why don't we get into the conversation?
got two
Because I see a lot of similarities also.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Okay, so, you know, if you visit the site and look what was turned down, there's a lot of similarities as to what Mr. Gonzalez is asking for now.
Okay.
So, you know,
It looks just the same.
go ahead, Mr. Mike. Go ahead, and identify yourself.
My understanding is this requires a public hearing, so I didn't have a lot prepared, assuming that, as we, as I said earlier, I was just, my assumption was that it was essentially entry into a public hearing. So,
Okay, so what you're asking us to do?
what I'm asking for requires a public hearing, so I don't think it can be decided today.
No, what,
We'd like to know what you're asking for.
you're asking,
Why don't you talk us through it?
tell us what you want. We'll determine whether or not a public hearing will be requested, and we'll go through everything else that needs to be. Go ahead. You need,
I apologize, I only made 10 copies of the original, thinking that 8 was enough.
that's all right, go ahead.
Alright, so, as you can see, I'm asking for a lift on one side, on my residence property, and then,
That's what he owns.
That
This is
or
the
not.
easeway.
excuse me, on the other property.
That's on the easement.
I would be not going over, but encroaching upon the littoral boundary that I share with myself, which, as you know from the last meeting, I gave my consultant permission to do. It was suggested that I go this path. I had two options. Once I was turned down, I could reapply, or I could appeal. I thought this was the easy, I don't mean easier, I mean easier going, less fireworks.
And I'm just gonna caution, everyone, the commission included that, should this need to be, go to court, it's gonna, every word should be caught for the record, so, that's always the case with every application, there should be that thought that, okay, if this is appealed to Superior Court, it'll be transcribed, so if you would, just make sure you speak up.
Even crosstalk for clarification, speak it out loud and catch it all on the record, and that's fine. Crosstalk for clarification is understandable. Compared to the previous application, so the previous application, as far as I remember it from the records, the lift was originally located on the side of the parcel shown as Unity Beach. During the final meeting of the possible time limit, Mr. Gonzalez reappeared and changed his ask, reduced it, and moved the lift from
Didn't
Unity
actually
Beach.
move it. I couldn't do that in that process. I would have wanted to, and Steve asked me if that was my intent. And I concur,
because it was only for one parcel. The idea is to remove the lift entirely from the Unity Beach side, where there were many comments from the public about impeding access. A boat lift could be dangerous to those who were swimming. Many comments were made to that regard. To remove the boat lift from that side and place it on the side that is exclusively Mr. Gonzalez's residential property. The only thing that would be on Unity Beach would be the dock, which is just over the line drawn out from the tide line and abuts the edge of the concrete seawall that's already existing. So it's a plan similar to this was submitted as a revision to the ask at the very last meeting, and it was some images were given where just the dock was superimposed over an aerial image, but then there were some questions about how far out this would actually go, how accurate this was. So staff encouraged Mr. Gonzalez to reapply with everything drawn to scale on the plan, showing exactly where everything would be, since it would be on two different parcels, that these lift would be its own application, but they could be considered together, and that it would show that reasonable accommodations were being made to attempt to still have access to placing a dock on a property that he has access rights to, but
I own.
you own and have waterfront access of. I didn't mean to imply that you didn't own it. But then to also place the lift in a way that would assuage some of the concerns of other members of the public that the commission had heard and considered in the past.
Do we have access to the minutes from that last meeting? Because as I recall, there were a number of neighbors who were concerned about boat traffic in that very tight area, and that we determined that there would be a safety issue
I think,
if a dock had been placed.
I think what's reasonable to ask, and you bring it up, is that if you could include in next month's packet the minutes from, there were 5 or 6 meetings.
Yeah, but I
but
remember
I'm
the
just
last
saying.
one, it was more than just the folks who have access
No,
to
no, I
Unity
think it's
Beach. It was-
beneficial to
I
have-
think Beth was concerned about boat.
Yes, Miss
Traffic and-
Chance, who lives at the
Yes.
property.
I think it's good to have the minutes from the 5 or 6 or 7 meetings, the public hearings, and might be beneficial is if, I don't think it's hard to do. Am I putting you on the spot time-wise to put it all together? Just the minutes.
Anything the commission wants.
Oh,
I'm here
very
to
good.
serve.
So that
for
if we
service to the
wanted it,
commission.
if we
Anything,
wanted it
yes.
a week before the packets are ready,
Sure.
then, we would make 2 trips down to the police department, one to pick up all of the minutes, so that you have time to read through
Yeah.
them and digest them, and then go back when she sends out a notice. So you'll send out 2 notices, one that the minutes are ready?
Right.
Yes, so June 10th is when your normal package date would be ready for June 15th.
So let's say
Would you
June-
like it by
Whatever,
June
2nd
3rd
3rd.
or?
Yeah, give us a week ahead of time,
So, okay, so I'll make sure that that's,
all right? So now everybody will now come up to date with what transpired before, and
Yeah.
the final minutes will reflect what was ultimately denied as a result of all the extensive conversation that took place.
Yeah,
okay.
because it was, I recall there being concern about safety and boat traffic in that very tight corner. Also, there was, as you mentioned, there were conflicting opinions about the ownership of the property.
Which, the town resolves for us whether we like it or
Michael,
not.
maybe you want to share.
So, the current opinion of town legal is that after doing a thorough read and inspection of everything, town legal's opinion is that if you have the right to access the land and you have deeded right to waterfront access, you have a right to apply for a permit to put a dock there. You don't actually even need to own it. Regardless, and that was based on the reading of the words of property owner signatures, as well as if you have access, and further readings into what access is, and I can get Mr. Nelligan's written opinion on that if you would like. But ultimately, Mr. Gonzalez does have access, and in the town's opinion, this is his parcel. So either way that it has been interpreted, either based on the revision based on Kevin Nelligan's further investigation, or the original opinion that was rendered, Mr. Gonzalez has the right to put a dock here. It's not like he isn't allowed to.
He has the right to
Apply.
request Yeah.
He has a right to apply.
By using your language, if I understood it,
Mm-hmm.
so do the other two homeowners
Yes,
who, so
they
then
do.
everybody can apply for a dock there.
Everyone who has deeded
Access,
access
right.
rights, and then it is up to the commission to determine whether
Okay,
or
so
not
it's
it is
not
feasible.
limited to Mr.
No.
Gonzalez's right.
But it's important to note that if there was a public easement, it's not like everybody can just say, well, I have access to public town land, I'm gonna apply to put a dock off of Risha Beach because I can. That's not the same. But yes, so Mr. Gonzalez does have that right, and the question of ownership is considered put to bed by legal opinion. We should not continue debating that from the opinion, from the point of view of there should be harmony between the commissions and the people who represent us in court. So that is the opinion, that is what we should be operating off of.
But we should be aware that the two other interested parties
Yes.
can also apply
Yes, and
on
they
the
do
same
have.
waterfront for similar things.
There are notes in the minutes, so if at the end of the minutes, it is noted that there were warning/violations for 521 and 523, East Wakefield Boulevard. Those were just notices that I sent out based on going out to the site and re-inspecting where everything was going to be, getting updated pictures for the new application. They weren't far enough out in the water. The original buoy permit for 520.
You got the files right in front of you.
Right, the initial permit for
Attach it-
521,
Attach your name to the address.
the Ward's
Okay.
property, buoy has to be 40 feet from the shore, and it's not currently 40 feet from the shore. The Beckers has to be 75 feet from the shore. So it's just, it was a notification to them that their buoys need to be properly located in the water in order to be in compliance with their permits. Otherwise, they would need to reapply if they wanted to change where they were going to be. And that was the only things that I had sent them as a result of this further investigation. But yes, they do have a right to apply to have things there. So
So let me get this straight. You're saying that the people who are on the easement have a right to put a dock on the easement also, or to apply?
they can apply if they have deeded access rights, because the dock and mooring ordinance states that anyone who has access, has waterfront access, has the right to do it based on the state's reading of what access is and what rights you as a property owner have to access water that you abut. And if you have access rights to it, even over land you don't own, Attorney Nelligan's opinion was then that right should be extended to you as well.
Could you
And
walk-
if the commission would like Attorney Nelligan at the June 15th
We can
meeting,
absolutely
that's
have
not
him here.
unreasonable.
Well, we're gonna
Clarify
have,
these
my guess is there are gonna be public hearings on this. So
There-
Why are you saying June 15th and not down the
Because
road?
typically applications take 2 meetings.
The last meeting, the last application.
It did, but
It
there was
need
also
not.
COVID involved in that. And it's always better to get as much information up front, having
Well,
Kevin come if there was a public hearing.
What
next
I
time.
was gonna suggest is the language that you just articulated with
Mm-hmm.
regard to, other people, homeowners having access to the right to put in an application. Could you put that in with the packet of the minutes?
We'll get him
So
to-
that,
Yeah.
that language is in writing rather than verbal? I'm more comfortable with it.
Understandable.
I-
Just one, go ahead, Jackie. 1 minute,
Is this the rendition we have?
yes.
Because there are no dimensions for the dock or the
Yeah.
walkway.
I apologize.
Yeah, we don't know if it's to scale. There's
And-
no way
and-
to know.
So would you come back,
Is-
modify that?
Is the long narrow thing a walkway to the boat
It's a
lift?
4 by, I wanna say 32, I think I have.
You
And-
can get that updated.
And
That's it.
what is that little other thing on the side
It's
of
an,
it?
it's an additional 4-foot piece, so it's a total of 8 feet wide at the end.
Okay.
So
Just having-
it's more
being
than a
able to say-
walkway, it's a,
Attach numbers to all of that?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
It's in, just so you know, it is in one of those 4 pages of the application.
here,
Through the application, it says, through the language of it.
it's
So we want it
needs
on,
to be
we
drawn.
want it on a piece of paper.
That's all.
All right, and the other thing the commission should note is that I visited the site today, and there was a boat attached to a buoy maybe 10 feet out. So somebody is also in violation there. I don't know who owns the boat, but there's a boat with a buoy out there, attached to a buoy out there.
So those letters have already gone out notifying the people who have buoys there. Those buoys would be moved. I have confirmation. from
When did the
Mr.
letter go out?
I sent that out late last week. I want to say last Thursday. I
Okay.
sent that out. I sent it to Pam around that same time, and she got it out very quickly. And then I got a couple of phone calls and emails from Mr. Becker as well as the wards. Mr. Becker sent me an email stating in writing that he would be making sure that his buoy was in the correct location out from the shore, and he would be moving that on the 21st, this
Okay,
Saturday.
so that's,
So they're aware of that.
Okay, good.
And then I was not in the office today. I came up to Winchester for this meeting. So I had no contact with the wards before this because
Okay.
I was away from my phone. But I can see that Mr. Ward is here concerning that. It's just a notification to the property
Yeah.
owners. It's not something I was immediately going to act on, but we will make sure that it all gets right.
okay?
I have a question.
And then-
Do we have to accept this application tonight?
Yes,
We do, okay.
yes.
Unless
There's
you
just so
find it,
many
unless
pieces.
you find the application itself incomplete in a way that any other application that does not have this history would be incomplete, as if they didn't even submit the paperwork and they just came before you and said, I'd like to apply and here's my money, that's the only way you can reject it, is if you
Okay.
truthfully find it incomplete. And that's when you can send someone away.
Other than Jackie pointing out the dimensions of the boat lift and the dock going out and that extension on the other side of the dock, is there anything else from the application's perspective that you'd like to see?
No, just what Jackie asked for.
So for the next meeting, the three things that we've noted will be that meeting minutes will be copied and available for all commissioners a week beforehand, that staff will make sure that we have the specific language and interpretation from Kevin Nelligan in writing available to all parties beforehand, as well as the dimensions of the boat lift, which are noted in the application, will also be updated on the plan specifically.
All right, so there's one responsibility for the homeowner and everything else is internal to us.
Yes.
Anybody with anything else? All right, do we need a public hearing?
Yes,
Yes.
One is required because it's within the littoral
because
boundary.
the ordinance says it's required.
Okay. For public interest or for,
It's not a wetlands public hearing, it's it's
Ordinance.
public interest.
It's
So it's
mandated.
mandatory public hearing by ordinance, more pertaining to public interest than significant
Okay.
impact.
so be it, so we'll schedule a public hearing, notifications have to go out.
Now, is this for both of these applications?
Yeah, they're both within the 10-foot boundary of the littoral line, so they both have to have a public hearing, but much like this is considered as one issue and the applicant consented, it can be handled as one issue. It just has to appear on the application as the
So
two
for
notes.
our purposes, we're gonna hold this public hearing as to one application with two addresses.
No, you're gonna hold two public hearings simultaneously for two applications.
It's like sentences running concurrent as opposed to consecutive.
Not if you're doing.
That was not supposed to be that ominous. It was just another.
Not if you're doing life.
It might be better to address them separately.
But if the applicant,
Because
if
we're
the
going to
applicant,
approve one, we might not
I
approve
wouldn't
the
vault
other.
one without. Well, I
it's,
shouldn't say that.
it's the
I won't
option
say
of
that.
the applicant to,
He requested that we consider them together.
I mean, but you can change that right now, but it's your prerogative whether,
There will still have to be two votes taken. There will still have to be two votes taken on this because it's two separate matters. It's just you don't have to say, okay, thank you very much, everybody who was just up here, please stand back
and
up.
you could approve one and not the other. They're
And
two
it
separate
be-
applications.
And it could be two separate public hearings.
It's,
It could be two separate public hearings.
yes,
And we would resolve.
it's typically at the request of the applicant.
And we could resolve one issue and then open up another public hearing and resolve the second issue because he's asking for one
Yes,
on
they're just,
one property and something on another property.
they're deeply linked.
It's up to him.
I tried to address that by putting the application for the right of way in front of the application for my personal residence. Because the one for my personal residence would be contingent
Talk
upon.
louder. The one for
I'm
you.
sorry, the one for my personal residence would be contingent upon the application for the right of way.
So how do you want us to proceed? Two public
Go with
hearings?
the right of way first.
Okay, so,
And it's dead in the water, if that doesn't go forward.
all right, so we're gonna have two applications next month.
Yes.
but there'll be two separate public hearings. Of course, that's what you're asking for.
Like on the same day, back to back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what you're asking for.
However you prefer.
Well-
You know, you're the board, it's your time, you know,
We just have to have. a
however
deci-
you would.
It's up to
rather
you,
do it,
because
it's fine.
it makes a difference with noticing, you know, anyway, you should have two signs. You're gonna send
bring
out
them
two
out.
notices, everyone's
I'll
getting
stick with
two
you.
letters, you know, all your neighbors are getting two letters, cause
So
one's
I'd
one.
rather, I mean, I'd rather produce less paperwork, you know, print less paper, kill less trees.
No, you're still doing that no matter what.
Wait a minute, wait a minute, don't talk about killing trees.
No, no matter, it's the testimony.
You were Machine Gun Kelly at that one.
No, for real, it's a testimony. If you don't consider them simultaneously, then whatever testimony is part of one application, you know, more or
Not
less.
necessarily considered on the other.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be difficult, both for members of the public as well as for this commission. Nothing against anyone.
Hold on, I just wanna make sure that,
Go ahead, Michael, I'm
Gary.
sorry.
I think it's going to be difficult for all involved parties to make sure that we discuss only what's on one side of the boundary or only what's on the other, and none of the evidence for one influences the other because they're so conjoined. I think it makes sense to have it as one public hearing. You can still vote separately. You know, you can still vote up one and down the other. It doesn't have to be that way. But I think in the interest of, you're supposed to consider all the testimony at a public hearing when you're approving an application, it makes more sense to just have one where the whole matter is considered holistically. Because that way we don't have to constantly butt in and say, well, you really shouldn't, because I don't want to be that pedantic. You know I love being pedantic. You've been with me for a couple of months now. But at that point, it's not helpful.
right.
It's not helpful. I think from staff's opinion, one public hearing is probably better for keeping everybody flowing and on topic and.
With the right for two votes.
Yeah, that's the right you have always, because it's two applications. It's just, you can just talk about it as one topic.
You good?
Fine with me.
Okay.
I'd like to ask a question before we get to the, it doesn't show the La Chance's littoral borders on here.
Yeah, that's the one all the way to the left. You see where it says 10 feet, where I've written in 524 EWB?
No.
I can pop over.
Okay, all right.
See that 10 feet?
Okay,
So I'm like, what, 10 feet away from that 10 feet, or 8 feet away from that 10 feet? I'm like 18 feet away from their littoral boundary.
shouldn't their littoral boundaries go this way?
No, because, you know, and that's the point I wanted to
The
make
cove
in this
method?
discussion.
That's the cove.
We don't have the
You know,
shoreline here.
That property, and I said it before, and I brought in, some drone photos. If you go from my border with the Stanzialis, or to the right of me,
Yeah.
if you go from there, with the exception of the jogs of the walls, it is a dead, you know, Steve was there today, it's a dead straight line to the point. There's not cove, there's no tightness, there's no, you know, there's no,
I think you're
there's
misinterpreting.
no concaveness to
I
it.
think you're misinterpreting the cove. The
I
cove
understand
is from
cove
Wheel,
method,
the
yeah.
cove is from Wheeler's Point at one end
I
to
totally get that.
the protrusion of Jackie's property at the other end, and it's creating a cove.
I understand that.
So it's not your.
I'm
your-
talking about the geographical line of where the water meets the land. You know.
When we zoom
when
into
we
your
say
property,
cove-
it's a straight line.
When we say cove, yeah, it looks like a cove, but if you go up, you look at it from down, up until the Wheeler's Point property, I apologize, I don't know who owns that. But from my, you know, and again, with the exception of these walls either being this way or that way, you know, nobody's done a straight, you know.
It's not the wall, it's the geographic
I totally
configuration
understand that. And
of that area.
That's why when I say with the exception of the wall,
Well, that's
you know,
good.
excluding that.
That's gonna be, that's gonna
Excluding
come
that,
out.
you look at that, and it's a line, there is no curvature to it, there, you know, there is no.
Would you mind showing me that?
Say it again, Jeff?
Would you mind showing me that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Actually, I have my
Is
phone,
it
I've had
this?
those pictures on my phone.
Is this what you're talking about right here?
So this is the dock,
Right,
that's
this is the
LaChance's line right here.
They don't
This is
count.
La Chance's line.
Yeah, so this is the right of way. Remember, I always used to say that
Speak
hockey
up
stick
for the
shape.
mic, I'm sorry.
I'm
I know I'm a stickler,
Yeah, I
but.
apologize.
Okay,
So this is LaChance's property right here.
okay, this is
That's
just,
that's those.
and that's same into the
Yeah,
middle of
that's
the cove?
those cement pins or whatever, those
Okay.
granite pins. right?
Okay, I just
So
thought
that's
her
his-
property was more like on an angle like this.
No.
Okay,
No.
that's it, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. I'll look at it again.
Sure.
Jeff,
Well,
can you-
you're
I
welcome.
only saw it a dozen times.
Jeff, just for the record, just recount the conversation so she has the
Well,
minutes.
I want to clarify what,
I'm good, it's
You got
just,
it?
yeah, so
Okay.
long as there's
What
not multiple
littoral-
people talking.
I just want to clarify with the littoral boundary between the right-of-way and the LaChance property. And Mr. Gonzalez is done.
Well, that's Mr. Gonzalez's opinion of it.
I mean,
Well,
it's
it's on
on
the
the
map.
survey.
I didn't write the
It's a dashed line, approximate literal setback, approximate little boundary is called out. The LaChance property, I don't remember the number, I think it's 534, 535 Wheeler's Point.
Should be
That's the
nice.
property to the due west
need all that
there.
on this map.
I don't,
We need all that on this map.
What do you need, so,
We need that this is this property and that's that property and it's
Uh,
not complete.
This is the little
no,
chance
that's
property.
noted. Number 6, FN Moore, plan of Wheeler lots, map number 20. It's a reference lot that was called out and is referenced by Peter B. Keefe, land surveyor, on his A2 survey. The approximate literal boundary is called out. Just because the name isn't on there doesn't make the survey inaccurate. It's just that Ms. LaChance and the LaChance family owns the lot immediately due west to Shonazuni Beach on the map. That's the lot that they own right now, but ownership changes. It's normal.
Well, I think the question, which will come out later on, of the littoral boundary and the direction the littoral boundary goes in, is gonna come into play to a certain extent here. Are there any other issues before we move to accept this application and declare a public hearing for public interest for next month?
Is next month an acceptable public hearing for staff and also the applicant? The applicant should be here for the public hearing.
Right. And are we gonna request that Kevin Nelligan be present at that first public hearing? Personally present?
yes.
Okay.
It's, but we're, as a whole, these land use boards are very good about making such requests.
Oh, good.
Other towns, it's
Will
common
you,
practice.
will you make the request so I won't have to act on it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's one of those matters that it won't.
Okay. All right, any other issues?
I'd like to make a point, though, that, with regard to who can apply for permits on land, both the ordinance and the regulation, I showed you guys, I highlighted it, both of them require the owner's signature. And Kevin himself required the owner's signature, right? He required that both the Beckers and the Wards produce title. Only when things reversed and I was able to produce title did he change his opinion. And now say you don't need to produce title.
This can be a matter that can be addressed by Kevin in his
And
writing,
we've asked for the language in writing, so we'll interpret it.
and he'll be here
But
to explain
I
it.
do want to make that point.
And I think out of courtesy, why don't you give Mr. Gonzalez a copy of that?
Because
I
I
intend
had
to.
to go through expend a significant amount of energy and money to get that title. People don't want to get involved with a property that's got, litigation written all over it.
Okay, we're good?
So,
But I will provide that copy to you as well. And anyone else who asks, it will be public
Good.
information.
Is there a motion to accept
I make a motion to accept
application?
application,
Both of them, right?
2214 and 2215 are the applications in question.
yes, those two.
And schedule public hearing is the other
And
part.
schedule a public hearing and the public interest.
Okay.
For
is there a
June
second?
15th, 2022, at 7 PM in Town Hall.
What is it?
June 15th, 2022, at 7 PM at Town Hall. You just should state it for the record. And right, Jackie? Is
Thank
that
you.
your motion?
Second on that?
Thank you.
Jeff, all those in favor of accepting it with a public hearing for public interest? It's unanimous. Good night, thank you.
thank you all.
The next application
So,
is
sorry.
For Denise Pratt, it's a modification of 21-27. I don't see anybody representing Denise Pratt.
So this was a violation. This was an application in response to a violation that was
Right.
issued in March in a show cause hearing. So you now have an application. They wanted to get that in to show good faith. but however, could not be here this evening and is requesting a continuance to your June 15th meeting.
Okay,
It's a modification, it's not a.
right.
It's a modification, so this is that approved house on that big cleared lot. There was a little bit of additional clearing in the front that will need to be addressed. I ceased and desisted them for the riprap that they added along the driveway. So they're asking for some changes to that in their construction sequence, and they'll have all of that for.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we accept this application, 22-16, which is a modification of 21-27, at 225 West Wakefield Boulevard to add stone along driveway edge.
Finding it as,
I think finding it is nothing, no public.
not significant.
No.
If it wasn't significant when it was approved last time with the clearing,
No.
this is far more minor.
Okay, finding it not significant, is there a second?
Second.
Gary, all those in favor of simply accepting? It's unanimous, thank you. So that comes off a violation or a cease and desist?
Yes, that'll be off of the violation notice.
Let's go back to the 3 applications we missed. I don't see anybody here.
Right.
So we're just gonna continue all 3 of them. Do we need motions to continue?
No.
Okay.
I don't know,
Technically,
because
no.
you don't wanna make a finding
No,
right now.
no, if no finding is being made, then there's no motion needed. If no,
So we're just simply gonna say that, for the record, in the
Table
minutes,
it.
we're gonna continue application 22-10 at 104 Shore Drive, application 22-11 at 212 West Wakefield, and application 22-12, West Wakefield Boulevard. I assume it's the same address, 212?
No, it just has an unassigned address
An
because it's
unassigned address.
unapproved.
So we're gonna continue all 3 of those to June. No public interest,
You're not accepting the applications yet.
Just
'cause you don't-
simply continue. Thank you. All right, agent determination, Michael?
Gervais Joven. Mr. Joven got in contact with me, noted that he was going to go ahead early in the summer and get that stone out and roll sod back over the pipe. He's put in an application. He hasn't done the work yet, and I haven't signed off on it yet because I have a pile of other things on my desk, and I'm going to get to it. Looks fine. So that's good. That's going to clear the violation that was on that, and it'll all be taken care of. Warnings violations.
Just 1 second, do we have to accept this application?
No, because it was already pre-kicked to me
Agent
for
approval.
agent determination.
Okay,
So
okay.
it doesn't require that. The only other thing I will speak to is a previous agent determination, and I included it in my activity log that I granted you today, was a 608 East Wakefield, that tank removal. So that was that tank removal by Emmy Carroll and Son. Jared Carroll, the son of Emmy Carroll and Son, appeared before the commission and told everyone that they were going to be doing that tank removal. Well, they went ahead with that first tank removal. There was contamination. The oil tank was leaking. Now, that doesn't require this commission to take any more action. He's in contact with State Deep and with me to just let me know what they're requiring him to do. So that's the applicant that that's going on. It went smoothly, but there was contamination, so they're taking care of that now.
I don't see that as,
That was a previous determination.
I know
from,
that.
Yeah.
but it's not listed on, after agent determination was the Shore Drive one, 182.
Yes, that was granted in March.
Right.
That was a few months ago.
And then the next, there's no one that you're talking about on our minutes.
Correct. That was just to note that that was something that had happened. I
Okay.
had already
Oh,
approved
so it's
that. That wasn't-
conversation.
Yeah,
Got
that
it.
was just
Okay.
conversation.
So now we're up to warnings?
Yes, so I would do these out of order with the intention of discussing with the individual who was sitting at the back the whole time if there was anything that he had questions about, but he just walked out. So I'll just go through these in order, and these will be quick. The Brucey property, nothing has happened, it is stable. North Main Street, I conduct a full site inspection of North Main Street on Monday, the 25th of April. It was a fun hike, nice little morning hike. Heard some great birds for the bird watchers in the room. As far as I can see, no new clearing has occurred. Based on my comparison of the recent pictures to the old pictures, he hasn't taken down more trees. We have very good pictures of the shed, which I believe is a horse run, as well as the living space that have been put up there. Those are building violations as well as zoning violations. Those have been forwarded to Attorney Nelligan, and I know there is either was a meeting or is going to be another court date very, very soon. And I know the town manager also noted to Attorney Nelligan that he would like some faster action on this. I know that the owner of this property has been in contact with land surveyor Peter Keefe to have a survey of the lot done. I know Mr. Keefe has told me that it is going to be a long job, it is going to be a difficult job, it's going to start with just a lot for the research before even getting out there. But that's where that is. There's clearly been some loss of topsoil. I can see that just from the leaching of the soil color. When I walk up that hill as to how it is now versus how it used to be. But I'm also not having earth come down in sheets. I know there have been continuing complaints from property owners about the amount of water coming down off the mountainside, but I mean, that's why he's here in the first place. So continuing to monitor it, I'll probably head back out some point early next month to continue do another full site inspection. 308 East Wakefield Boulevard, Mr. Sliney. So Mr. Sliney had a meeting with Mr. Batista of Lennard Engineering to get the engineering done to create a solution to the large amount of impervious surface he created on his lot. Upon hearing the quote for the price of the engineering, Mr. Sliney is considering whether or not he can rip everything out. But he doesn't have any concrete plans on what to do yet. I'm going to be re-contacting him. It's a tough one. It was a beautiful patio, but without permits and on that tiny lot, there really isn't enough space for it based on the zoning regulations, and he did it without permits. Even if he takes it out, he'll need some permissions to remove everything because it will be excavation. 713 East Wakefield Boulevard, I do have confirmation that the survey is being done. I had confirmation at the last month's meeting. It's just taking a little while. The Knolls, I heard nothing, despite the fact that Mr. Keefe has confirmed that the survey was picked up months ago, back in March. No application has been made. I'm of the opinion that we should send a citation, because at this point, if they have all the materials ready to bring in an application, and I know they do, and now they're stalling, I really see no reason not to prompt them along.
I'd like to have the commission support that request and ask you to please submit the request.
The citation,
Yes.
I will bring you record of it.
Anybody, we're all good with that?
Yeah.
Might as well move it along, otherwise we'll be here every night
It's
talking
here.
about
It's
it.
here every time. 225 West Wakefield Boulevard. We already talked about that one because there's an application out that'll be off violations next month. 182 Shore Drive, agent determination. So that's moving forward. 165 West Road. I believe that the owner of 165 West Road was out of the country for the past 3 weeks. Went to Italy, which I can only imagine is a very nice time. But he'll be back tomorrow. Before he left, he stated to me that he had contacted a friend of his who was a surveyor, and that as he is in landscaping, he knows surveyors. He had asked that surveyor to update his survey with the landscape. 165 West Road, that's the half acre of cleared lands.
Which,
We don't,
it's not on here, Mike.
Warning violations?
No, we're up to 182 Shore Drive, so.
What was the address on that?
165 West Road?
It's on the,
Okay,
it's on the agenda.
So was
It's
that
at
the
the
one
end
where
of the
they
agenda.
want to plant an orchard?
He
or
wants to
something?
plant an orchard, yeah.
Yeah.
But he cleared all that land without any
it's
sort
not
of.
on there.
We're on the agenda, Mayor.
It's not on. I don't see it either.
165.
We're looking at something different than we are.
Are there multiple copies?
It's not on.
Is it 160?
Maybe you have an old agenda.
We
maybe.
have regular, okay, apologies. 182 Shore Drive, we have the application for Gervais Joven, so that's moving forward. 165 West Road is another one. That one was the cleared land. He's told me he was getting his survey updated, then he left for Italy for 3 weeks. He's supposed to be back on Saturday, so I'll be contacting him on Monday. It's a nice life to be able to go to Italy for 3 weeks. The last two are 521 and 523 East Wakefield Boulevard, which are the properties of the Wards and the Beckers. I sent them just a friendly letter. It's not a formal violation. Just a notice that because we were reviewing the files, your buoys aren't in the right places. So just move them to the right places and there's no issue.
Okay, thank you.
That's everything from me.
Anything with communication and bills?
No bills?
Bill?
Perfect.
Gary, you want to
I'm not asking.
No,
I guess I've got something to add.
Go ahead, Gary.
All right, you know how we've been battling this catch basin program, right? Having it sucked out, cleaned out, flushed. And the whole time, we didn't have a truck, we didn't have a back, we didn't have a as I've seen my travels through town and town with other people, our sewer department has a super vac and it's had it for 4 years, which is a $600,000 truck, but it doesn't seem that, and maybe it's something to where they got it on a grant and it can only be used for sewer.
It was part of a budget one year, I remember when they bought it.
But they have the truck, but it doesn't seem like our town is working together here to get this stuff done. Huh?
Who wants to call Jim Rollins?
Well, Jeff, as the present
No.
liaison
Okay,
to,
I'll call him. I'll be glad to call him.
I'll do it.
No,
I speak to him regularly.
And we can reach out to him
No, I'm
too,
glad
to
you're
see
pointing it out to us.
if, I didn't know that it was the water department buying it. I can remember Jim coming and saying how they were purchasing it, and I thought it was the Public Works Department.
Public Works,
So that all
bought a new
forms-
truck, a sweeper vac, alright? But the sewer department has the big vac, with the sewer that comes out the front, it has the jet water to flush up, to flush the lines out and everything to that nature.
Does that all?
I think
fall
I've seen that on the boulevard.
Yeah, that's all Jim.
Okay, I know nothing about these trucks, but would you maybe not wanna use something that's
That's what
used
it's for.
for sewer waste
that's what
on
it's
the, okay.
That's what it's for.
All right, so please,
No, they
follow up.
flushed
Give him a
it.
call,
Good.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Jackie, anything
He's
with
the official liaison.
Highland
No,
Lake?
nothing to report.
Okay. Any other news? Go ahead, Jeff.
Assistant liaison.
What?
Assistant liaison.
Well, the liaison's not here, which makes you the liaison.
Seriously, anything else? All right, thank you for coming,
We
thanks
have
for
a
attendance,
subcommittee meeting.
and we look forward to our next month's meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, I'll second it.
Yeah.
All those in favor of
About the
adjourning?
trees.
Unanimous.
Sure. Love me a good line. Ooh, sub 2 hours. Very nice.
You can't cut the tree down like, you know, it is cold right now.
8:52. Nice. Time to go home.
Devastating.
Stands out next door to them. They took anything that was like this down.
So with
That's terrible.
regards to that, clear cutting is quite poorly defined. You know, is not well defined in our regs because, and I mentioned this a couple times way back, but there's a zoning regulation of clear cutting, which is about large trees and only applies on steep slopes. And there is a wetlands definition of clear cutting, which is about foliage, but you have to take all of it. And wetlands doesn't call out like a minimum area. Zoning says if it's over 2,000 square feet, so a 20 by 100 parcel, right? Tiny little piece of land. Wetlands doesn't call it out. It's left entirely to discretion. But the problem with that is, what do you call clear cutting if you don't have a minimum area over which it has to happen? Because if I take down 3 trees and clear up my garden, and I say my entire site area is that's clearing, right? So it's the half an acre thing that we have, that's a specific definition for erosion control in our zoning regs, and there are specific lines that we hit. So it's very difficult to enforce for me to really send letters on certain things when I have to be able to point to the regulations and say, well, I know you broke this. Now, Mr. Gonzalez's property, the work he did in the front by the boulevard, that clearing, because he left pretty much all the trees on the hill between himself and Stanziali, as well as there are still hedges along his property, I don't think it constitutes clear cutting because it's not all the foliage. But I got a picture sent to me from a concerned resident on the lake showing that he had cleared along the steep slope of his house a bunch of pine trees. Now he told me he hadn't taken these down yet when I was out there investigating. He said, I think I'm going to take down a couple of these pine trees. And I thought, he's going to take down 1 or 2 pine trees that are leaning.
Didn't leave any standing.
Now, all the stumps are still there, so at least for the purpose of soil's not escaping, soil's not escaping. However, that only lasts so long.
Right.
So he has made it clear to me that he intends to replant all along the driveway area. I will be speaking to him about making sure that he does revegetate that area as well. the important part about this is making sure that soil doesn't escape, that we are properly making sure that all of our landscape stays where it is. But one of the things,
It's a steep slope, right?
it's a
And-
steep slope,
yeah.
which means it's covered under the zoning regs. So that is very clear because it's, okay, that's 2,000 square feet, you are on a steep slope, if it's over 25%, you can't take down any vegetation at all, so that's very clearly laid out. I want to be able to bring wetlands and zoning's definitions into unity, because I think it's confusing to people when I have to basically give this lecture that I just gave you on, when someone asks, can I take that tree down? And then 10 minutes later, they're not at all clearer about what you're allowed to do. So I wanna bring that into it, but I think that would have to be a revision to our wetlands regs. And I don't know what the process of that is, because I think we can be stricter than the state, but we can't be less lenient, right? So I think we can make things harder than the
Reverse that.
we can be harder than the state, but we can't reduce our allowances to below their level, because then the state protections
We
go
can't be
in.
more
And,
lenient.
and
We
so
can't
if
be.
you remember back when, and we really gotta adjourn because the
Yeah.
quorum of the board present, so.
That's true, this is a meeting.
Right,
Take place.
so there was, but but I mean, you can't discuss outside of a meeting with a quorum.
Shut the machine off. Now let's do it.
So the wetlands, regs, the state was, revising theirs, and so when Steve Sidlowski was the planner, he had said, wait until the state was done, cause most towns just mirror the states.
Well, I mean, just from a common sense approach, Gonzalez, between his two properties and on his slope, he took every tree that was of any consequence down. And simultaneously, his neighbor took every tree of any consequence.
And I
between
think
the
you
two
were gonna
properties.
address it, weren't you?
So the issue is, Mr. Stanziali's clearing at the front of his lot, that was approved, because there was
That extent?
the area was cleared for
Was he
a
within-
driveway.
Yeah.
And that's, when
Yeah,
the
yeah.
driveway is noted on the plan that it's gonna be there, you're gonna take down all the trees in the area and those around it, so you have equipment access.
Then
The
shame on-
plan need not say,
Shame on us, because then we missed that one.
cause it was the same thing with,
Intended to be expanded.
Yeah.
with, the one that Gary Goulet did.
632 East Wakefield.
If you
still working
recall,
on that one.
and that clear cutting was,
Egregious.
a lot more than what you even had approved, beyond what was shown as obvious improvements in terms of the driveway. So, you know, it's one of the questions that you should
In
ask.
the scope of what was done on the two properties we're talking about compared to what the O'Haron, new owners of the Heron site, I mean, those, they took nothing down in terms of
Harrison.
the scope of their
Yeah.
property, really.
I mean, Stanzial's, you know, they were before you where it showed proposed driveway. One of the questions you ask is,
What's there now?
what's there now?
So, as a part of
I think they may have gone beyond what,
And he can look at it in the field with the site plan and take a look to
Well,
see.
It did
But I
look-
mean, this other
No,
one.
we can still make them replant. I mean, we can still demand we replant. Nothing makes me happier than sending someone a letter that says plant bushes. But, no, I mean, from a.
Wait,
from-
what do you mean, you could make them replant?
We can say that you're in
if they
violation
went
of your
beyond-
site
If they went beyond what was
If you went beyond what
approved.
was approved, then
Right.
we can make them replant and say you went
Right.
beyond your site plan, you went beyond your scope of work. But, I mean, we have Mr. Gonzalez before us for, an application. It can be brought up and he can be asked to plant because he's already here.
I think
He
it's
made a
better to
statement
handle it.
tonight.
I think we
as a-
should keep it separate.
Yeah,
He made a statement tonight, he's gonna
think so.
replant trees.
you know.
Yeah, he fully intends to, it's what he said to me every time, but.
but you don't wanna talk about
Hasn't
too
done yet.
much of it because you're,
All right,
don't wanna have a
everybody, have a
meeting.
good night.
I'll see everybody
Until
in
June.
August. I'll be working for next week, June and July, going to college, so
Sorry, say again?
I won't be here until August.
Until August.
Yeah, June and July.
Because that
Are you
ice.
guys gonna have enough people too?
We'll see. We need 5.
you're the only one who's calling out for June and July.
You know what?
Cold. I haven't even put my garbage.
Just for conversation purposes, part of our taking on these commissionerships is attendance at meetings, and, you know, like, we sort of cover it by saying absent excused, absent excused, absent excused, but the bottom line is cumulative, it becomes harmful if we're out for too many meetings
Oh,
over
I
the course of,
understand
you know, just,
Why we applaud Jeff.
I think you should, Gary, what do you think?
You want a
I think
medal?
like I think
but
a
I
medal
didn't get
or
applauded
a
for
nice
my
fancy
first 2
pen.
I'll get you a birthday
You know?
crown.
I did tell Pam a good month ago when I.
Six pack of beer.
No, I appreciate you telling us, but,
Yeah.
it's not you, I have the attendance, and I would have brought it up in a different way, but you opened the door, so it's good.
No worries. Let's ask, I know, when are we gonna have our subcommittee?
Are you around like the next couple weeks?
I'm around, I have to go to LA next week for 3 days. Okay. I'll be gone Monday, Tuesday, no, 4 days.
So maybe we should get you.
Well, you guys can come to my house for a beer this weekend if you want.
I'm cleaning the shower for my niece
I got it.
until
Go.
that afternoon.
You haven't been trained, Michael, staying calm.
Train me, Pamela.
So you guys want to
Yeah. Don't touch it and you won't get accused of.
No, they'll still accuse me.
after work?
That worked till about 5:30.
Okay. And where would you like to meet? At Brew Pub? Okay, Brew Pub.
What's that?
What does it take, Pam, to change an ordinance in town? We
Town
want
meeting.
tree ordinance, X amount of feet back from the lake.
We want more.
The board of selectmen
We're gonna